So what is ERP software? I want to talk about this. What is enterprise resource planning software? I want to sort of speculate where there's problems with it and possibly, just have a conversation with you in terms of what might actually be going on there, or whether it's maybe worthwhile for you to even pursue these kind of things. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massack. I'm a professor of innovation and strategy, and I've sort of loosely been pondering these things for a while. I don't specifically study ERP stuff, but my background is actually engineering, and I've done many, many years of thinking about decision making within organizations of various different ways. And so, that's the caveat. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But the but what I'd sort of think about, okay, what is enterprise resource planning software? What it is sort of a group of many different softwares that sort of sync together. I think about it as almost like more of an accounting software, or more of, when you open up the fridge, a good analogy is, when you open up the fridge and you look to see what's going on, you're trying to sort of take account of what you actually have. And then what you can purchase and go and make the appropriate decisions when you make those purchases. Well, an ERP software, at least in sort of theory, would understand what's in the fridge, right? Would sort of see what's going on within the fridge, and then, coordinate and let everybody know, so you can sort of flip open your phone and you can look on an app on your phone, and then it'll tell you exactly what's going on. And then, not only that, clever ones will automatically order something if the eggs are out, or, if you need some cream for your coffee. So, at least in theory, the idea behind it is really, really nice, but there's been a lot of work that's been done, like tons of work. There's always tons of work that's going on in this stuff, right? It's kind of a moving target, and it's always evolving. But, the challenge with all of this kind of stuff, and it's like in my house, is getting everybody on board to actually use it. I might be, a rabid fan of this, and I usually am kind of more of a rabid fan, although I'm pulling back on rabid fans of technology, because it's only me that's interested in this, right? So the problem is that you might be a really interested fan, it might be a really interesting thing, and it might be really exciting, and it has a tremendous amount of value. But if nobody uses the damn thing, and if it's only used for an accounting purpose, it really doesn't work that well. And so you have to make it sort of central and really work with it to be part of the organization and be part of what you're actually doing in terms of decision making. So that means, like, not only buying the system and talking to all the silly consultants and all that kind of stuff, but also having a group of people that are evangelists in your organization, and doing things with it and being on top of it, making it central to what you're actually doing. If you do that, it's like anything, right? If you make that central to what you're actually doing, you'll actually benefit tremendously. If that's your central thing, if you have a technological core that's very central, man, you could do a lot. But so there's a couple of things. You got to get everybody to buy in. You also have to get in, and that's like senior and junior folks too, right? Then you also have to realize that this is ongoing. It means you are probably going to have like buggy stuff happening on a regular basis, right? Because it's an ongoing thing. It's always evolving. Software is always evolving, and it's always changing. There's always new standards. So it's not just like, I'm just going to buy this piece of software and that's the end of it. No, that's kind of a really wonky way to think about it, but it's an ongoing commitment to doing this for a while, and making it part of your organization. So the other thing to think about is really making an investment in it, so it sort of survives and does a lot for the organization, right? And that's the key thing, is to go and make this big investment. And the problem is you're not going to get a return, just like everything. You're not going to get a return on what you're actually doing unless everybody is involved. You make this investment. It's a real big thing. In fact, one of my advisors did some really great research on the adoption of total quality management. And this is one of the problems with that, is that people organizations superficially adopt it and sort of pursue this kind of stuff, but then nobody does anything with it, right? And then it sort of becomes called it the rhetoric and the reality of total quality management. It's a really good paper. And like, there's rhetoric behind it. Everybody's excited and you do it. You jump into this thing, you realize it's damn hard and you don't want to do it. So it's just like everything. You have to make this commitment to it and realize it's damn hard. And it's not going to be as easy as you think it is. Now, the other thing that you want to sort of realize is these investments that you make in it might not necessarily pan out. It's a risky investment. It's something that might be kind of a waste, right? So you might want to, clearly you have to have sort of that business case and justified to do these things, but it might not necessarily pan out, and you have to be okay if you make this large investment that it's actually not going to pan out. And I know that you don't want to hear that. That's not necessarily a fun thing to hear, but that's the truth of it, right? Sometimes these things just don't work out for, many different factors. There might be, 5 or 6 different factors, right? The culture's not right. There's one person that's a holdout that just sort of destroys everything. There is, it's buggy at the beginning and you get frustrated and nobody, like all of those things, you compound all those things, and that might be a little difficult to actually implement these things. So the other thing I want you to be well aware of, and maybe I'll wrap up pretty soon. The other thing I want you to be well aware of is when we study decision-making of senior executives and, look at what they actually do, it's the rare scenario that I see decision-making and papers that have talked about this, that decision-making is done by these machines. So we're pretty far from that. However, if you look at something like a Walmart, for example, or a large institution, a large university, for example, they might actually do this, and they might have implemented this, and it's part of what they're doing, but it's such a slow and gradual thing, right? Like Walmart, for sure, they do this, and it's a big part of what they do. The airlines, right? It's a big part of these kind of systems, are a really big part of what they do, but it's such a slow and gradual thing. They don't reap any benefits for it until it's 10 years out. So that's one thing to think about, is the decision making may not be happening anyways. You might default to it after you make a decision, but you don't necessarily use it as making a decision going forward. We normally make decisions in our noggin for many other reasons. And then we sort of justify it based on what we're actually doing. Like my wife and I bought a house, and we live in a beautiful house and all this kind of stuff. Well, we didn't make a decision based on all of the different criteria that we own in all those kind of things. We made it sort of a gut decision and moved from there, and then justified how do we actually get to where we need to go based on that. Now, here's the thing that I think is maybe changing a little bit. I don't know. These things are evolving. They're constantly going on. But here's the thing that I think is changing is machine learning, I think, is going to become a really increasingly important part of the decision making that happens here, which might free up some resources to allow other people to do more interesting things within the organization than making simple decisions. based on, what's going on within these ERP systems. And I suspect that's going to become an increasingly more important part of the decision making that happens. And, it will become easier to understand what's actually going on, based on the sort of machine learning stuff that's happening. Now, this is a long ways away, but we're moving in that way, and you might want to just keep your eye on this. So if my recommendation for you in terms of thinking about this, if there is a business case, like you can justify over the next 5 years that you're going to break even, and you actually can plot this out, you have a break even analysis, and it looks like you're going to break even from this investment, then it makes sense to actually go and pursue it. But in the meantime, keep your eye on it, keep going, and find something that's interesting, and see if it's actually going to straighten things out in your organization. All right, take care, and have a wonderful day.